up with Australia. Now, seriously, I've heard like multiple tales of people thinking they were booking somewhere in Australia and it was Austria or vice versa, which, like, I get it, but, well, mind you, as I say this, I'm remembering that one of the places I put into Waze on our drive here from Monaco, where I was last week, we'll come back to that, I put in the name of the hotel. And I can't remember what it was, but it was, with the benefit of hindsight, it was a very generic named hotel. And when I looked at the map, I was like, yeah, that seems like about the right place, somewhere in the Swiss mountains. And then when we're almost there, I'm saying to Charlotte, just put it into your map as well. And of course, she puts in the proper address and not just the name. And we were in a very wrong place, albeit kind of along the way via a detour, which was pretty, in my defence. So there we go. James, kind of an odd time, yes, because Austria. And also, I didn't do this over the weekend. So we're in Austria. It is 9 a.m. Monday morning, which is still pretty much today for everyone. Yeah, it is an odd time, isn't it? Yeah, look, I didn't do it over the weekend, in part because we were travelling on Saturday. And yesterday, I just wanted a day off, if I'm honest. So yeah, that's why it's an odd sort of time. Anyway, I tell you what I've been up to. So this is Austria. This is an area of where, and just in case you're wondering, no, we weren't at the Formula One. We laid by the lake, drinking wine, watching the Formula One on the iPad yesterday. We did look at it, but Spielberg is like 2 hours or something away from here in the opposite direction to which we need to go after I finish this live stream, which is to the airport in Munich. So in Austria, I came to you last week from Monaco, I still don't know, which was excessively fun. I think, how do I explain it? It's like wonderfully excessively fun. Maybe in a little bit of a Vegas kind of way, where it's like, this is really interesting. Yep, Lance, still on the Grand Tour. So I'm in Austria. So we're in Monaco. It is very excessive in terms of, obviously, the amount of money people throw around. The cars are the obvious thing. I am not a fashion aficionado, as you probably tell. But Charlotte would look at a handbag. She'd go, oh, that's like a $50,000 handbag. Oh, Scott's here. Good day, mate. And I'm like, well, okay. It looks like it carries shit to me, but okay, whatever. $50,000 handbag, or that's some like crazy expensive watch or outfits or anything like that. It was like I feel it was a little bit like Vegas, where if you kind of throw yourself into that and take it for what it is, it's a bit of fun. I wouldn't want to live there. But anyway, so that was fun. We drove from there to Portofino. Is that the real L Hunt? We drove from there to Portofino, and that was very nice, very, very small. My only sort of knowledge of Portofino was in the Wolf of Wall Street. So if you've seen the Wolf of Wall Street, when they're on the boat and they're Jordan Belfort and whoever the other guy is, the guy that what's his name now? The other bloke played. Anyway, so they're sitting on the deck, doing drugs, losing their minds, and then they suddenly have to go sail off to somewhere else, and that's the port they sail out of, is Portofino, which is super, super pretty, really, really pretty, extraordinarily small, and trying to drive the car to our accommodation on those, this is the 911, which we've had for a while. So having the car on that road where everything's like that wide and you have basically no gap whatsoever is, it's a bit worrying. And then you get a bus or something come the other way. Now, Italians seem to work it, well, I was going to say, Italians seem to work it out. But when you see the number of scratches on the number of cars, you're sort of like, okay, maybe Italians don't always work it out. Like every single freaking car. Because we went from Portofino to Rome, and that was an okay drive. But we got to Rome, Yeah, I was literally messaging Scott, going, "Have a look at this! Like every single freaking car." And of course, Scott's been to Rome because we were there together at the beginning of last year. So every single freaking car has got a scratch, which is just. I feel like that 911 that we drove down there might have been the only car ever to leave Rome without a scratch. Anyway, we went to Rome. We had .NET Code in Rome at Microsoft. So that was kind of the last of the events. So we sort of got all the way around to Rome. It's the last of the public events. Left Rome, drove up to Bologna because it was in a convenient location, sort of on the way back up towards Munich and ultimately the plane home. Bologna was also handy because that is near Modena, and Modena has the cool car places, Lamborghini, Pagani, and Ferrari. So we went to each of the locations of those, went to the museums. I don't know how many of you are car people, but bear with me. The Lamborghini one was surprisingly stark. Like they had some cool cars. They had some cool classic cars, things like Miura and Countach. And weirdly enough, they didn't have any Revueltos there in the showroom, which is the current generation V12 Lambo. But it was like weirdly, it's like a very, so it wasn't nondescript, but it was just like a very white, stark building. It just sort of lacked a bit of what I thought the emotion would be of Lamborghini. I went to Pagani next. Now, if you haven't seen what Pagani looks like, and you just Google Pagani, it's like art or jewelry on wheels. It's ridiculously, extraordinarily beautiful machinery priced at ridiculous, extraordinary prices. G'day, Richard. Out the front, they had their current flagship, the Pagani Utopia, the brand new one, in carbon fiber with a red paint, and it was just insane. It was absolutely gorgeous. And inside they had just a whole bunch of really awesome stuff. So everything from Zondas through to Wirers through to Zonda R's and track editions, and it was just beautiful. And I think every time you sort of set your bar somewhere, you see something else that's like, wow, that one's really, really nice. So Pagani was amazing. Ferrari was kind of what I expected in that, to be honest, Ferrari felt like going to a Silicon Valley tech campus. It felt like the Facebook campus. I was at Facebook some years ago. And it's just sprawls and sprawls and sprawls. Except the only difference is it's not all Ferrari. There's like the Ferrari factory there, and then there's the cafe that's all branded Ferrari, and then there's the people trying to sell you joyrides in a Ferrari, which is right. And it just feels like all-encompassing Ferrari marketing machine, either directly from Ferrari or the people leveraging the brand. So I went through the museum there. It was cool. They have some nice stuff. I don't know what it is, but other than the really extreme models, it just doesn't overly appeal to me. And I think part of it's the marketing and the commercialization of it. So anyway, so that was Ferrari. Now from there, we went to Stelvio. And for folks that, if you've maybe watched Top Gear or seen motoring shows where they're like, here is the most epic road in the world kind of thing, it's just switchbacks all up a mountain. I think they're 40 something switchbacks all the way up the mountain, up to 2,800 meters high. And we stayed pretty much on turn one, the first switchback down the bottom. And we got there late because I got the address a bit wrong. Got there late. We're just sitting outside on that like late European sunset, looking up at this massive mountain and sitting there having a bottle of wine. And there's so much history to it. It's 200 years old, this road, Stelvio Pass. And it's got a lot of motorsport heritage to it as well because people want to drive cars fast up mountains. So the next morning we drove up there. We decided we'd have a bit of an early, well, not crazy early, but we left at about 6:30 in the morning and had the entire road to ourselves from bottom all the way to top. I think there were two sort of work vehicles down the bottom, which we got past pretty quick. And then we went on to pass some cyclists. How do we describe cyclists? The cyclist driver, and to be clear, like it's like when you pass a cyclist, you slow down, you give them lots of room. Absolutely no problems with that. there was still fist waving because that's what cyclists do, apparently, when a car, which the roads are built for, goes past a cyclist. So that's there was them. But otherwise, it's an epically cool looking road. Now I post all of these photos to Facebook, by the way. The different other social platforms are just, as we know, they're a bit weird lately. So if you want to see photos of it, they're all on my Facebook account. There's a link to that. They're public from my blog. In a way, it wasn't the best driving road because every time you get to a switchback, it's all the way back to first gear. So you have no nice flowing road. You are literally looking back over your shoulder like this in order to see around the next corner because it's such a tight corner. So you get a blast between the corners, which you don't want to overcook because everything's just rock wall. And you either got the high side rock wall, which just goes all the way to the top, or you got probably like a waist high rock wall on the low side. You don't want to hit either, and you definitely don't want to go over the one on the side. So you've got to button everything back well below the pace you would go if there was runoff. So that was, in a way, a little bit of a shame. The road surface wasn't too bad. Got up to the top. It's obviously a ski resort during winter, but if you've ever been to what is normally a ski resort during winter and then you go to the off season, there's something very eerie about it. Like it's oddly quiet, unless you get like a shoulder season somewhere where they do a lot of mountain biking and hiking and so on. But this was just one of those ones where it was very, very quiet up the top, which felt kind of strange. It felt like a little bit of a ghost town. Anyway, driving back down was fun. So finally, the temperature was, I think, about 8 degrees, the car was saying. So getting heat in the tyres was hard on the way up when everything was cold and you're literally starting on turn 1. Going back down, not so much a problem because it's braking all the way down. Not necessarily particularly steep slopes, but just continuously braking for hairpins. So the readouts by the time we got to well, put it this way, you could smell it. By the time you got to the bottom, you could smell a lot of brakes. But got to the bottom, got awesome photos. There are definitely some of those going straight to the pool room. Aussies will get the reference. It was, that was like a bucket list thing to go to Stelvio Pass. So James has been on some uncomfortable mountain roads. Not a fan. To be honest, judging from the noises from the passenger seat, we have been on much less comfortable, for her, roads because you had to slow down so much for every one of these corners and you didn't want to overcook it anyway. It's very different when there's something which is just flowing and smooth and you can get a rhythm. But anyway, so we went from there to where we are now. This is Fuschl in Austria, which is sort of towards the western side of Austria. We came here because it just looked epic and it was a good spot on the way back to Munich. It's on a massive lake. We did a walk around the lake, massive lake. That's 11.5 kilometre walk we did yesterday around the lake. And I'll post photos of this in the next few hours as well. We're just sort of sitting around at the lake. It's almost like a beach club on the lake where they'll bring you drinks and food and everything, and then you jump in the lake, have a swim, and the lake looks super, super blue. It looks turquoise. It looks like something out of the Caribbean. I will get onto the work stuff in a moment too, the cyber stuff. It looks awesome. It was about 23 degrees in the pool, in the lake, according to the watch, which was perfect because you could just lay there in the sun. It's European sun, so it doesn't like cremate you like Australian sun does if you lay out there. So you can get a little bit warm without getting burned, jump in the water back. It was a nice day. So that was sort of, I guess, our wind down before now driving to Munich, back on the Autobahn. Yay. After this, hand the car back, and then we're out of here. Now, we'll go back to Australia for a day and then have an actual holiday, not one where we're spending the whole time going and doing talking events. So when I do this, I'll try and do it on Friday. We'll be in Japan. So we're going back to Australia and then back up to Japan because why not? That will actually be a holiday, a family holiday then. Right, I will start to get on to some of the work bits. Mike says, love the western side of Austria. Beautiful part of Europe. To be honest, like this whole region, and I have driven around here a long time, many years ago, and I kind of want to do it again with a cooler car and stay nicer places than when I was like 20 something. Uh, Everything from like Austria, the southern part of Germany, Switzerland, northern Italy, Liechtenstein, of course, we're out there as well, is spectacularly beautiful. Like it's lovely. And this time of year, and particularly if you have the option to have something like a convertible car, it's really cool. And looking outside the window now, it's mostly sunny again, 24 Celsius. That's perfect. Okay, so in terms of the other things, well, here's my list. Two data breaches into Have I Been Pwned this week. I'll talk you through these. They're not particularly major ones, but for every data breach, I guess there's a little bit of triaging process. Is it legitimate? It's number one. Is it in the news? Is there any press coverage of it? Do I have to disclose it? Do I have to go through that process? Is it impacting enough people to load? And I think the bar there, for the most part, is it needs to be tens of thousands. Now, tangentially, whether it's tens of thousands or tens of millions, it's the same amount of effort on our behalf, except one of those quantums reaches 1,000 times more than the other. So when we're sitting there going, like, where do I invest the time in terms of processing, disclosure if necessary, loading it? Every data breach is hours of effort in one way or another. Which ones do we focus on? And these were two which, if I'm honest, probably barely made the cut in terms of size, but they weren't particularly hard for other reasons, and I'll explain why. Let's do this one first. Looking up the details here. Have fun teaching. Now, Have Fun Teaching appears to be a resource for teachers to buy material as part of their job. Someone sent me this data, 80,000 transactions with 27,000 unique email addresses breached in August 2021. So it's a little bit old. Data also included physical and IP address, name, payment methods, which I think from memory was like whether it was PayPal or a credit card. Nothing usable in there. And the items purchased, 83% already have I Been Pwned. Now, this one I couldn't find any public reference of anywhere. I tried getting in touch with them initially, didn't get a response. Went out, I think publicly as well, asked for contact. Eventually did get a response, did send them the data, did push them on multiple occasions for, do you have a disclosure notice you can share? And they had gone very, very quiet. And eventually I got to the point where I said, look, I'm going to load this in the next couple of days. If you have a disclosure notice or a statement, please send it to me. And I just haven't heard anything more, which is a bit disappointing. And I'm sure the people in that data breach, if I had to guess, probably haven't had a disclosure notice either. That was Have Fun Teaching. Now, the other one here is Robinson's Malls in the Philippines, which I believe is quite significant in the Philippines. 195,000 unique email addresses breached via their mobile app. Data also included name, date of birth, gender, phone, and city. 43% already have been pwned. Obviously a much larger incident than Have Fun Teaching. But again, loaded this. I haven't heard anything back from anyone. For both of these, I went through my normal verification processes. Definitely check out. Very, very high degree of confidence that they're from those services. There are several others that I'm in the process of having to go through disclosure with because they're just not in the public domain. There's one I did the verification on last night, which was when I do verification, what I'll normally do is take some email addresses that are in the data breach, put them into password reset. Does the password reset have an enumeration vector? So does it come back and say, hey, you're in this data breach? No, I'll rephrase it. My mind just wandered. Try this again. You take several email addresses, you put them in the password reset. Does the password reset say you have successfully been sent a password reset email? Or if you fat finger it and you create a fabricated address, does it come back and say you do not have an email address or an account on this service with that address? Ergo, it is enumeration, it is verification insofar as what are the chances every email address I test in a data breach, alleged data breach, actually exists on the service. And suddenly, like, alleged is becoming likely, accurate. So that's how I verify them. That's one I was verifying last night. It was, I don't want to give too much away because I'm pretty sure they don't know about it yet. It was from a part of the world where they frequently use phone numbers as a means of logging in. So you enter a phone number and then they'll send an OTP or something to that phone number, and then you enter that into the website and you're logged on. Now, what was funny about this one is I popped the DevTools, put in a phone number, and the response that came back not only confirmed the account exists, but it returned the email address for the phone number, which then matched the source. So this system had literally designed a way of doing enumeration and matching phone numbers to email addresses. So that made verification easy, and now I've got to email these guys and say, hey, I've got X amount of records of your data that someone has sent me. Yeah, what do you want to do? This I can already tell this one's going to be painful. We'll see if I'm talking about this next week or not. So that's the situation with those ones. There's the one I just mentioned. There's another one I've just verified that I have to reach out to. There's another one that there'll be some press about next week as well, in a genre of service which nobody really likes. Let's just say that, and then we'll see the details very shortly. James says, it shouldn't even verify the phone number exists. Now, yeah, you're right, it shouldn't, because that's enumeration. What I often find, though, is services will go to some degree of effort not to have an enumeration vector on their password reset. So, you'll enter an email address, for example, it'll come back and go, if you've got an email address on that service, we'll send a reset to that address shortly. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. I have some other problems there. Namely that if you've forgotten which address you've used and you don't get an email, you don't know if you had the wrong address or their email delivery isn't working. So I don't like that. But anyway, where most services end up ultimately having an enumeration vector, even if they try not to on password reset, is on registration. Because you go to registration and you enter an email address that does exist, and it's like a unique constraint on the database, and the web app comes back and goes, no, you can't create this account because you already got one. Now, of course, they could easily just come back, whether you have an account or not, and say, we've sent you an email with further instructions. And then the email could explain, you've already got an account, or click here to verify your new account. So it's easy to avoid, but most services don't do it. And I guess in a way that's kind of handy because it helps me do verification. Okay, now, last thing before I wrap this up, because we've got to get going to the airport. The merch store. Well, we launched a merch store with the rebranded Have I Been Pwned, I want to say 5 weeks ago. It's on the same day we launched it. And Charlotte was particularly keen to do merch because she's like, look, there's a lot of people that want to support Have I Been Pwned, and they'd like to have some, a hoodie or a hat or a t-shirt or something like that. And it kind of went, if you really want to, so long as you can do it in a way that we don't have to do anything. And there are services out there that allow you to, they effectively pre-populate the store with all of these different items. You can choose the items that you want to put in your store. You can upload a PNG of your logo and decide where they want to put it. You can mark up the price if you want to. We didn't, we just put everything at cost. Then you can choose the colors available and whatever else. And they will then handle everything from the ordering, through to the printing, through to the shipping, through to everything else. And we have to have that. There is no way in the world we're going to start holding stock or doing deliveries or anything like that. So we have to have a complete turnkey solution to merch. And Charlotte went and looked at a bunch of different options and decided that the best looking one was Teespring. Now there was some irony there, because Teespring is in Have I Been Pwned. So they have been breached, but so is LinkedIn and Dropbox and a whole bunch of other things we use. So we went ahead with them, and it was good in the beginning, and then it got increasingly levels of shit, and I'm going to explain why. I think the first problem came, and I have described this in weekly updates, so I'll be brief about it. First problem came when Charlotte had set up the account and she wanted to add me to the team, for want of a better term, as another administrator. So it's the usual sort of process. Put in someone's email address, they get an email, secret link, click on the link, you go to the website, create an account or log in or whatever it is, and you're done. But it just never worked. You went to the website and it's like log in. So, okay, fine. Recapture file. What? Okay, try it again and again and again. Nothing works. Why don't I log in first so I'm already authenticated and then I'll follow the link. And again, failure after failure after failure. So I log a support ticket. And they come back and they're like, we're looking into it. It's like, well, could you just like add my record in the back end? You know, find some way around it. And long story short, we went for weeks and couldn't get this solved. And to this day, at least a month after we started this process, I still do not have access to that Teespring store because they literally just, for whatever reason, couldn't fix it, couldn't escalate it, couldn't respond with a good answer. And then we bound merch.haveibeenpwned.com to the store, which is good, you got our own domain. But people started saying, hey, when you try and share this, the link being shared is 0.0.0.0. And I'm like, what? How does this happen? I didn't even understand what they were saying originally. And then I went and looked at the markup, and the canonical link in the head with the, whatever the correct canonical link tag is, it actually appeared in multiple places because I had one of the like open graph URLs as well. Instead of being merch.haveibeenpwned.com, was just 0.0.0.0. So I was like, okay, fine, log another ticket. Yep, technical team is looking at it. Nothing happens. Follow up. It's the same thing again, just couldn't get a reply. And we just got to the point where it's like, this is feeling super, super sketchy. And I went out on the Twitters, or whatever it is now, and I complained about this. And someone from Fourth Wall got in touch. Now, Fourth Wall also does merch store stuff. And for whatever reason, maybe their SEO juice is just not quite cooking right or whatever it is, Charlotte had never found that in her research. And she's normally pretty diligent about this stuff too. So I'm inclined to think that they just don't have the visibility that they should. But someone reached out, and normally I'd be a little bit reluctant for someone like Thread Hijacking trying to pitch their own stuff. But this guy seemed really nice. And we were desperate. And Fourth Wall looked really good. And they seem to create merch stores for influencers, for want of a better term. And there's some quite famous people in there. The guy you keep seeing on the front of their website is some gamer that I'd recognised for some reason. But anyway, so we went and started setting that store up. And immediately the experience was better in terms of things like the breadth of items that you could choose. I'm going to talk about one particular item I was very excited about in a moment. Two, actually. So that was better. We went through, we got the whole thing set up. Meanwhile, I'm getting emails from people, and also we had ordered merch for people like Stefan, who's meant to have merch coming to him. That's just never arriving from Teespring. So it's extraordinarily frustrating because one of the messages I got from someone was like, hey, I've been waiting like 4 weeks or something and I still don't have my merch and I'm logging a support ticket and I haven't heard back from them. And it's like, all right, well, look, this is total shit. But then you go and start researching the company and you find various complaints from people saying, yeah, it took a long time, but it did arrive, 4, 5, 6 weeks or something. So before I start moving on to the good stuff about the new merch store, if you have ordered merch, and I'm going to look at these comments in a moment too, if you have ordered merch from that Teespring store, which we superseded less than a week ago, and you haven't received stuff, send them a support ticket. So get in touch with them. If that doesn't work, go to your credit card company and dispute the payment. That shouldn't be hard, and I say that on the basis of the number of disputed payments we get for people making legitimate purchases on Have I Been Pwned, but they weren't sure or they weren't aware that it was automatically renewing, or they didn't realise someone else in the team had already made a purchase. So they go to the credit card company and they say, I didn't approve this purchase, or I didn't get delivery of the product or whatever else, and they kill the charge, and they get the money back, and then we pay. Scott knows what this is like. It's painful. Stripe disputes are painful because we always pay, even when we're right. So, if you're in that boat with Teespring, well, firstly, sincere apologies. Like we're really upset that they were so profoundly shit, and there might be a blog post coming to that effect as well. And now that I think about it, I'm sure that data breach has the email addresses of the founders. Maybe I'll go and find some people, send an email. So yeah, first thing, sincere apologies on that. Please log them a ticket if you made an order and it hasn't arrived, and if you don't then get a satisfactory response or you don't get merch within a satisfactory period of time, then go through and dispute that with your credit card company. We are going to order merch from Fourth Wall probably today, I think, sitting at the airport. When that arrives at home, and they guarantee something like 9 business day delivery or something. When it arrives at home successfully, and we're happy with the quality, then I'll write a blog post, and I think I will simultaneously talk about how nice Fourth Wall is and throw Teespring under all the wheels of the bus. Right, let me have a look at what's here in the comments. Lance understands the pool room, very good. James says it shouldn't even verify the phone number. We had that discussion, that was enumeration. James is tuning in. Back in Brizzy. Cheers for the weekly updates. I did a similar Italy, Swiss, and Monaco trip last year. Yeah, well, it's good fun. Mike loves the designs on the merch store. Sounds like you and Charlotte had great fun with the naming. Charlotte had great fun with the naming. It's all Charlotte. Look, the merch store doesn't help victims of data breaches. It doesn't make us any money. It does quite the opposite. It sucks our time. But she was just really passionate about building a merch store. So now we have a merch store. James says, did you consider Linus Tech Tips Creator Warehouse? I reckon they would be interested. First, I've heard of it. I don't know if Charlotte looked at that or not. But again, Fourth Wall, we're going all in on Fourth Wall for the moment. Lance's mug hasn't arrived. Well, as I said earlier, you know what to do with that. Give them pressure and then dispute the charge if they don't give you a satisfactory response. Mike says, the amount of chargebacks we get as a rail ticket retailer because of issues nothing to do with us. Yeah, well, again, the ones we get with Have I Been Pwned, as I said before, it could be anything from they didn't know the subscription would automatically renew, even though it's all over the place, through to they bought a subscription that's the wrong size, or just all sorts of random stuff. And of course, every now and then an actual fraudulent use of the credit card, but it's painful. Scott says, we lost a chargeback recently with irrefutable evidence that someone had been using the service for 11 of the 12 months of the subscription. They got a full refund and we had to pay the chargeback fees for fighting it too. The system's insane. Yeah, and he's right. Like it's nuts. I did notice on Stripe the other day, mate, if you toggle on 3DS verification, they say that, and of course then the card's got to support it and they've got to, I guess, go through the 3DS process. But anyway, they said if there is a dispute after it's passed 3DS, then you don't wear any cost or any loss. That goes back to, I assume, the credit card company. All right, so on that merch store, last thing, if you go to merch.haveibeenpwned.com, you'll see in many ways it's a bit similar to the one before. The two things that we really wanted a breach towel. And yes, I did say a breach towel because naming. So you can now get a towel to use on the beach that is inspired by breaches, which is pwned. And then the number one thing that I particularly wanted, because it messes with people's heads, is I wanted breech thongs. So you can now buy thongs from the Have I Been Pwned merch store. Now, in case your mind's going other places, these are the ones with the two bits that go between, you know, like obviously thongs that go on your feet, clearly. I know, it's Australia. But you can now get breech thongs. So, yeah, I think that would be a nice gift for co-workers or significant others to go and buy them a set of Have I Been Pwned thongs, and I'm sure that they would appreciate that very much. Folks, on that note, I'm going to wrap it up because we do have to get going to the airport for that long drive home. Drive home, flight home. Incidentally, it's about 7 hours from most places in Europe. I think we might be 6.5 from Munich to Dubai, and then we hang around Dubai for a couple of hours, and it's 14.5 hours from Dubai back to Brisbane. And then we get there, I don't even know. It's sometime after midnight. So I'm gonna end that there, and I'll come to you from Japan probably in about 4 days from now, actually, if I do it on time. Maybe 5, we'll see. Thanks, folks.